1451, beginning of the last turn in Empires of the Middle Ages. So when we last left, the Poles have been knocked out. So right now we have 3 players who are off the board. The former French, who are now kind of the rulers of Portugal, but not really, because they can't actually set their court there. The Poles, who are all to the east pretty much, have been driven back by the Germans. And the Turks, who have been being stomped regularly by the Byzantines. We had a leader dies airless event for the Italians, who are kind of in the lead right now. They ended up with a really awful leader, 1-2-2, as well as losing Croatia. That's really about it. Everybody else was just trying to solidify their position. The Germans are trying to get up into a position, although they make less money than the Italians do, where they can challenge them. And that's going to be a tough situation, especially, well, now they have a pretty decent leader for administration. So they want to get their economy going. Likewise, the English probably want to try to position themselves where they can do something against the Italians. But it's a lot harder for them. Italy's a powerful country, just in terms of the number of areas you have to capture to take it out. 2 for Tuscany, 2 for Rome, 2 for Lombardy, 2 for Verona, and then 4 for Venice. Of course, Corsica as well, but that's just a huge, huge amount. 2, 4, 6, 8, 12 home areas. I don't think there's anything that potent in the game. So it's a great it's a great place to be. The problem is, when the Saracens are on the board, it's an impossible homeland. But it does protect you a great deal. All right, 1456, the Turks have left the game completely. They're considering the possibility of re-entering down in Cordova and Granada, but it just doesn't seem worth playing at this point to come in as a new power. Even they'd be in a pretty decent shape in terms of position with the 3 areas, and might be able to finish the French off rather well. So, I don't know. I may set them up there. Everyone else pretty much tried to maintain the status quo, largely. The Italians are working on converting Burgundy, which has cost them some money. They still have the lead there. Germans and English are both ruling and both piling up their cash for sort of a final stab, probably against Italy. And the Byzantines are also considering such an attack, just to try to even things out a little bit. They think they might come in first if they can take Italy down enough. All right. 1461. We got a new magnate came out of Syria because the Turks are gone and nobody's ready to play them. And they expanded all the way up into Armenia and Georgia. The Turks, well, a player decided to settle in Spain instead and give that a shot. See if they can get at least a few victory points. Because the Turks just couldn't stay on the map. We got the beginning of the war against Italy. And oh boy, is it painful. For everyone, really, but mainly for the people fighting against Italy, I'd say. The British started things off, and they connected up Anjou through Brittany so that they could attack into Burgundy, and that didn't particularly go well. I believe they had a leader dies airless event and lost Sweden during that. So, and then the Germans swept into Verona and halfway into Tuscany, but they're out of money now. Attacking fortified areas with high population is really, really expensive. And then finally the Byzantines went and took Rome. Again, largely draining what treasury they had. So Italy's still got a pretty decent treasury. Unfortunately, they're facing 3 people, so that could be a serious problem. But they should be able to defend themselves and stay on the map. We still don't have any Poles on the board. Germany has completely kept them off. And the Portuguese, or whatever you want to call them, are just being threatened by the new player. 1466, and the coalition against Italy more or less stopped them. The Italian ruler got a leader dies airless, ending up with a 3-5-5, but still had enough money, etc., to grab Verona back and take claim to it. They may go back into Rome as well once they get a chance. But basically, everybody was drained of their money by attacking. The Italians lost Burgundy. The English didn't go forward with that because they would have been facing the full deck of Italian cards. It looks like people have to kind of leave them alone. They're too potent to really fight. The English could have, of course, grabbed something, but like Ile-de-France, without that being too harmful. But that's not worth much. With the -2 social state for a 3-point area, it's just not worth attacking that many times to get it. There's better things to do, and everywhere else the Italians can actually intervene, and they have enough cash to stop anything. So I guess that's where it stands. The magnate is sitting here. Everybody's really going to look for second place now, and I believe that's pretty much wrapped up by the Byzantines unless something horrible happens. Although the Germans can certainly score a lot of points if they can get claims to some of that Polish territory. Should be very cool for them. 1471, all that's left here is to count the points. The game is over. But I do want to go over what happened in this turn, because it was the final turn and people drained their treasuries trying to do things. No one really went after the Italians hard. Only the Byzantines kind of did, because they went after them in the turn order. So the Germans made an attempt to try to get claims to the Polish territory. They only got Silesia out of it. The Spaniards ruled a little bit, and they're going to be worth a grand total of 5 points. Not very impressive. They probably shouldn't have even entered the game. The Italians retook Verona and grabbed claim to it. And then the Byzantines were one of the more interesting of all. They forgot to grab Kiev. Silly them. That would have saved them in action at least. They tried to gain new territories with claims, and they managed to do this in Croatia and Hungary. They didn't manage to get Verona, although they have claim to it along with everybody else in the world. That's really about it at this point. I'm going to count up points and look into the empires individually after we spreadsheet that. So, it ended up being a fairly close game at the very top, at least among a couple of players. Let's see what we got. I left these new Spaniards out there at 5 points. The next worst player is the French, who hold this little corner, Portugal, Leon, and Corsica. Total value that they had is 2 points for land, 9 in claims, plus the 25 conversion gets them to 36. The next worst is the English, who were fairly recent in the game, if you remember. They've got England itself, a hunk in France, and then this sort of Norse-German expedition. They ended up with no conversion points, but 30 land, 27 claims, which is actually pretty much where the more powerful people are landing. So they're considered one of the good countries in terms of position. Then the next one would go to the Germans. Now remember, the Germans started the game. I mean, these are one of the original Carolingian empires, so where the French, the Burgundians, got knocked out. And they have the heart of Germany and of Poland as well. Not a lot of wealth throughout that, but some. So they ended up with 10 conversion points, 32 for the land, 27 for the claims, a total of 69. Basically the same as the English had, plus some conversion points that they got early in the game. The next one up is the Poles, and the Poles got their homeland ripped from them. They're sitting on a lot of a really not valuable territory to the east, and a lot of their other territory has been stripped away. They had 30 conversion points they were sitting on, however. Only 13 land points, but 27 claims. Holding a lot of territory that you have claim to, even if it's not worth anything, is worth victory points. They gave them a total of 70, putting them slightly ahead of the Germans, still. And the next one we go to is the Byzantines. And the Byzantines managed to do a bit of a resurgence, although they're somewhat pestered by that magnate, spreading back into the Balkans and even into Italy now. Their total points were 35 for conversion, 28 for land, mainly because their heartland is still not completely devastated, 30 points in claims, which is about what everybody had, for a total of 93. And then finally, we have the Italians, who have their big 40 points of conversions. They got very lucky in getting that card that the Poles discarded, the missionary fervor card, and then allowing a lot of heresy to happen. I mean, there were more points available to them if the game had gone on. They had 27 land points, which is pretty low, perhaps because of the wars they just got engaged in, and only 30 claims points like everyone else, about the same area, for a total of 97. Now, I spreadsheeted it for what it's worth there, and we've got the earliest country, the Byzantines, up at the top, and the latest, the English and the Italians, towards the bottom. As you can see, though, that one card, the missionary fervor, is really, really potent, and that's one of the big complaints people have about the game. All right, I'll be back to really wrap up and give a little bit of a review on this. Yeah, I'll probably do that as a separate video.